Hello book lovers and welcome to Book Talk Radio Club. My name is Claire Perkins and today I'm talking to Lana Broussard. Lana writes under the pen name of L.T. Garvin. Her writing includes fiction, children's books and poetry. Today we're going to be talking about her most recent publication, Dancing with the Sandman, which takes readers on a time travel journey back to the 1960s. Billie Jo Dunston confronts her past, travelling back to the 1960s through a decade of turbulence and swirling colour memories, contemplating life growing up in rural Texas. Hi Lana, welcome and thank you for coming on Book Talk Radio Club.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Claire.
It's my pleasure. Lana, would you like to give Book Talk Radio Club listeners a brief synopsis of Dancing with the Sandman?
Yes, Dancing with the Sandman is the story of a young girl growing up in rural Texas and her assessment of life around her and her family ties and her association within the community that she's growing up in.
Right. The main character, as I said, is Billie Jo Dunston. Who is Billie Jo Dunston? What kind of character is she?
Well, she is, a young girl. She's growing up in the South, but she is also very astute, very clever, and she is looking around her as she's growing up, and she's, maybe questioning some things, that she's not just taking what the adults tell her or, the product of the environment. She's rather making her own assessment of it.
So why is she taking a journey back to her time growing up in the 60s?
Well, the book actually starts just very briefly in sort of the present time period where Billie Jo is actually an adult and she's driving down the highway and she's going back home to help her mother move from an apartment. And as she's driving back to the little town where she grew up in, she's noticing how everything has changed around her, how, it's becoming more of a ghost town type environment because one of the reasons is they have put in this new superhighway where people can just kind of skirt around these little towns that used to populate the area. And she's seeing the demise, and as she's thinking about how everything is going away, she remembers what it once was, and then we progress there back in time to where she remembers.
I know when I've driven through Texas, you miss these little intriguing places, these interesting places. As much as it's nice to get from A to B quickly, it's also nice to see what's around you, isn't it? So, although this is a work of fiction, I have a feeling that these are some of your memories of life growing up in Texas. Am I right?
Some of them did start based on truth. There's a lot in the book that did. But then, as I was writing, I realized that, my life really wasn't that interesting, so I was going to have to fictionalize it to make it so.
What's your most vivid memory of life growing up during that decade?
My most vivid memory was family events, like family reunions were a big thing back then, where families would get together and we would have these massive picnics with all kinds of food, and we would be able to see all of our relatives. And that is something today, I don't know how many people do that anymore.
Yeah, that's a good point. You don't see that, do you? Everything is much more
not as much. Not as much. And back then, it was like, a yearly thing, and extended families members would get together, and it was just really a neat thing,
And what would you say was the biggest change since then and now?
Well, as far as these little communities go out there in Texas, a lot of them are truly succumbing to becoming ghost towns. They're just not going to be there anymore.
Yeah.
And in many ways that's kind of sad.
Well, of course it is, because the communities are lost.
Yes, they're just going away. And, people have had to move out for economic opportunities and that sort of thing. And the young people do not stay. And what was once thriving little wholesome type communities are just going.
Anyone that, excuse me, I've got a frog in my throat. Try again. Anyone that lived through the 60s seems to have rose-tinted spectacles when looking back on that time. Yes, there was a wonderful music, a sense of freedom, a huge social change, but on the flip side there was also the Vietnam War, the Cuban Missile Crisis, the assassination of JFK, his brother, and of course Martin Luther King. Did you find, Lana, that as you were going over your memories, writing Dancing with the Sandman, that you had on a pair of rose-tinted spectacles?
Well, yes and no. As far as the character in the book goes, the character is out there in far west Texas, being young and in that small town. She is kind of insulated from all of that. Mm-hmm. She does have the one memory of course, she doesn't really know what it is because she's so young at the JFK assassination, and the adults gathering around the television and some of them crying and that sort of thing. Yeah. That she was really not exposed to, what was going on in Vietnam and the other issues, the social turmoil at the time, because again, that little town was just kind of isolated from a lot of the world.
Right. But when you were looking over your memories of that time, did you see everything through rose-tinted spectacles, or you remember the good and the bad?
I remember the good and the bad, but the focus of the book is more on the focus of family and how family ties were maybe a bit more stronger then, because again, families lived, around each other, and there was a sense of community. People knew their neighbors and everything. And we've kind of gotten away from that, from a sociological standpoint, I think, in modern times.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I agree with you.
Yeah, I don't think kids, I teach, and I don't think kids have that sense of support anymore, and I think, that's not really a good thing.
Your short stories have appeared in print with the Texas Writers Journal. You have published Poetry on Rhyme, The Drabble, Poets' Corner, Wax Poetry and Art, and Silver Birch Press on Wild Sound Poetry Festival. Which do you enjoy writing more, poetry or fiction, and why?
I like both of them. I guess I might lean more toward poetry, just because you can write a short piece and try to capture a moment or a time. One of my favorite things to write, I think, is, I've just called it story poetry, and it's, I pretty much write in free verse.
Right.
And, I like writing poetry.
You also write children's books, including Confessions of a Fourth Grade Athlete and Animals Galore. Would you like to tell me a little bit about them and what age group they're for?
Yes, Animals Galore is a book written in rhyme, and it's for elementary children. Right. And there are some very colorful animals in there, an elephant who makes eggplant, and a purple cow. Just really cute, fun little animals. In Confessions of a Fourth Grade Athlete, we have actually started redoing that, and we're going to kind of make it more of a middle school book. And it's about a young boy, and, sports are very, very big in Texas, especially football. And it's a young boy, and he's just trying to do it all. And he's got a really quirky sense of humor, and he's got some funny and interesting friends, and he's talking about his athletic career, and he's got a really dynamic relationship with his older sister. And so we are in the process of kind of revamping that for middle school.
So back to Dancing with the Sandman. Why the title Dancing with the Sandman?
I thought about that. Of course, my grandparents had a farm in West Texas, and there was an area on that farm that was just pretty much all sand. And I remember going out there in the summer, and the sand was so hot. I mean, if you took off your flip-flops or whatever and tried to walk, it was just scalding. And it was, the way it was tinted, it was almost kind of white sand. Mm-hmm. And that's just what I was thinking about when I picked the title.
You literally danced over the sand because it was too hot.
Well, just it's part of that landscape. of West Texas.
Right.
So, yes.
So who is your target audience for Dancing with the Sandman?
I really think Sandman, of course, it's probably going to appeal to a lot of baby boomers because they grew up and they're going to remember a lot of the themes and the music that is thrown into that book. But I also think it would be good as a young adult book because I think kids would maybe like to see how people grew up back in a certain time.
Sure, bit of history.
Mm-hmm.
So sorry, please carry on.
And I think maybe, they can identify with that young girl growing up and some of the things that she thinks. And so I think it would also be appropriate as a young YA book.
So is Dancing with the Sandman a one-off, or will we hear more from Billy Joe Dunston?
I think that's going to be a one-off.
Right. You have some great reviews over on Amazon for the book, including nostalgic, poignant and entertaining. The pages are full of humour, memories and life, and each chapter was a memory that blew in and out like a whirlwind. Tell me, Lana, what was the proudest moment for you, the first sale or the first review, and why?
I think the reviews, the first review, because it's a validation that you've created something that people like and that people can identify with.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. And lastly, where can Book Talk Radio Club's listeners purchase your books?
Well, the best universal place would be Amazon. It can be purchased in digital form for Kindle, or you can order a hard copy. And also Lulu.com has hard copies of the book. Lovely.
All right. Well, thank you, Lana. Please come back on Book Talk Radio Club again. I'd love to chat with you and hear more. In the meantime, good luck for the future. And thank you, everyone, for listening to Book Talk Radio Club. Thank you very much, Lana.
Okay. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.